Hi, everyone. This is Ellen from the Astrology Journal. I had a nice shift this morning around a long-standing issue, and I realized that it was a nice manifestation of the astrological symbolism of the lunar eclipse chart that is happening today, October 28th at 4. I think it's 4:54 Eastern time. Um, so there, as usual, there are a lot of pieces to this. So I thought what I would do is just walk through each of the pieces. So one piece is Jupiter, and you can see that in the chart. If you're watching on video, you can just follow my cursor, or if you're listening to the podcast, you can see it in the chart in the note section. Jupiter is in Taurus, conjunct the moon in a balsamic conjunction. So, in other words, the moon is finishing up its transit with relationship to Jupiter, its monthly transit in relationship to Jupiter. And they're both in Taurus, and Jupiter is retrograde. So, Jupiter represents truth and lies. It represents morality. It represents the stories we tell. It represents faith. It represents all those things. And then Taurus represents our inner feeling sense, what pleases us, what doesn't please us, what we like, what we don't like. And it's our self relationship. And it's also our resources and what grounds us. I feel it belongs to the part of the growth cycle, the developmental growth cycle. That's where we're growing very quickly. If you think about spring, when things are really starting to bust through the earth and grow, and they're just growing very rapidly. And there's a lot of need for, so there's a lot of development going on and a lot of need for support and for that development to happen. So so the idea in Taurus is Jupiter in Taurus is, are the stories we're telling, do they feel right? Are they in tune with our innate inborn guidance system, which is our feelings, or are they out of alignment? And how do we tell that? Well, how do they feel? If it feels good, we go to it. If it doesn't feel good, if we burn, if it, we touch a stove and burn, we pull back, we go away from it. Very basic feeling sense that is the foundation of our relationship with reality. Taurus is an earth sign. And earth signs are about the manifest reality. Capricorn, typically we think of as reality as itself, but there's a pathway from Taurus to Virgo to Capricorn. So the very basic is, how do we feel? And we don't leave that behind when we evolve, when we continue to develop and grow. That becomes a building block. That's a basic thing that we rely on. And then we add things on top of that. So after Taurus comes Gemini, then we start to add, our relationship with thought on top of that. And maybe we have this interplay between, I think this thought, it makes me feel this way. I think this thought, it makes me feel this way. I prefer this thought to this thought. So maybe it works something like that. So the other archetype that I think is relevant is Uranus, which is also in Taurus. Taurus and Jupiter are not conjunct, but they are in a balsamic phase. So in other words, Jupiter is winding up its relationship, its transit in relationship to Uranus. So Taurus is about awakening. So awakening to our feeling sense. Maybe it's been hidden under there, or buried. You could say Pluto and Uranus. Pluto at the end of Capricorn. Uranus towards the end of Taurus. So Pluto at 27 degrees Capricorn. Uranus at 24 degrees Taurus. Those are trine. So maybe, and the trine is this nice, easy relationship, and it can be positive or negative. It just depends on the kind of energy that's been flowing. Whatever energy has been flowing, that's going to flow. So the flow may be, as Pluto has gone in and dredged up things and exposed things in the underbelly, the flow may be an awakening to what no longer works, an awakening to what's been buried, our feeling sense, and that no longer works. Burying our feeling sense no longer works. So I feel like that's a piece of this too. And then Another piece of this that relates to my actual experience is Mars, which is in Scorpio. Mars is our action principle. It's also it enacts the desires of the soul. In evolutionary astrology, that's how they talk about it. It enacts the desires of the soul. And right now it's in Scorpio. In traditional astrology, it rules Scorpio as well as Aries. In modern astrology, Pluto rules Scorpio. But Pluto is desire itself. Mars is the action principle related to desire. This, again, is an evolutionary astrology perspective. Scorpio can be the sting. Mars can be anger, and Scorpio can be the sting, and Scorpio can be betrayal. So the sting that betrays you, or that you react to, something like that. And it is conjunct Mercury. They're in a waning balsamic conjunction. So there's a lot of balsamic going on here. So the end of a cycle, winding down, seeing something finally, releasing something, forgiving something, letting go of something. Something maybe is in our face, and so we see it. It's there so that we can see it, so that we can work through it and let go of it, and all of that. Mercury is our thoughts, and it's also the child at play. So in a sense, we can think about our thoughts as originating in terms of our developmental process in our childhood. So the story, and by the way, Mercury and Mars are also conjunct the sun, and this is a lunar eclipse, meaning the moon is opposed the sun, and the moon is in Taurus. So it's part of the eclipse signature, specific to the sun and the moon. So it's also opposed. So Mercury and Mars are also opposed the moon, because they're conjunct the sun, they're opposed the moon. So the shift I had this morning was that I was telling somebody in the last couple of weeks about an experience I had. I was consulting with somebody, actually, me as a client consulting with somebody. So I was telling them about an experience I had years ago working, consulting another professional in a specific field. And I was telling a story about how when I was a kid, so in that encounter years ago, I was telling that person a story about when I was a kid. I was an athlete, so I would go out into the driveway and I would play catch with myself, throw a tennis ball against the garage door, and with a softball mitt, baseball mitt, whatever, I would play catch with myself. I would go for grounders, that sort of thing. And I was saying that and I had a shoulder issue. And so I was tying it back to that. I was saying maybe it's related to this. I feel like it might be related to this. It feels like it's about anger. Because I was an angry kid. On the surface, I was a nice kid, right? But I was a well-behaved kid, all that. But I was angry inside. I was really angry. And so I was like, I just feel like I was really deepening that anger through that process. And she came in and said, no, that's really great. That's what you're supposed to do. That's how you release anger. But my frustration was that she wasn't hearing me. It's like, yes, that can be a process if you're being conscious about it. But if you're not being conscious about it, you could potentially, I believe, not an expert, not an enlightened being, just sharing what I think and what I believe my experience is, you can actually groove something deeper. I think if you're doing something in an unconscious manner, if you're engaging in an activity from an unconscious place, you can, instead of it being a helpful release, a helpful way of processing that so that it can be released and all that, you instead groove it deeper. And I believe that's what happened with me. So I was telling this story to somebody recently, and I was like, it was grudge. I was saying it with a grudge. My relationship with that moment was grudge. And when I was I don't know, it just sort of, when I was just being around this morning, it just sort of surfaced. And all of a sudden I was like, it was just kind of like, it's okay, that happened. it wasn't the best experience for me, but it's okay. That happened. And then I started playing with different possible, and that felt like peace within me. Taurus, ruled by Venus. That's about peace, inner peace, our inner relationship. Is it peaceful or is it not peaceful? And I was playing around and I thought, well, maybe I could say something like, I just started thinking, she did the best she could, all that kind of stuff. And when I said that, it felt wrong. It felt like it was just putting a veneer on top of it, but it wasn't really helping me get to a place of inner peace. I still felt angry underneath that, but it was nice words on top of it. And but I noticed a difference. The difference was when I named the experience for what it was, it wasn't the best experience for me. Okay, she did, and I don't even have to go to she did the best she could. That's not actually even mine to be concerned with. It wasn't the best experience for me, and that's okay. And finally, I could let go of that, and I could have peace. It didn't matter anymore. And so there is also this quintile between Saturn and Jupiter. So Saturn and Jupiter have to do with Saturn has to do with our boundaries, in our reality and our discipline and our mastery and all that kind of stuff. But Saturn and Jupiter together are thought of as like the societal planets. And so they're the mores, they're the structures, the conditioning, the traditions, the institutions, are all of that. And so I feel like, and Saturn rules Capricorn, the last earth sign. So if we start in Taurus and we have our feelings, but as we progressively go around, we start to prioritize something other than our feelings, like leave our feelings behind as we learn these new things and sort of ditch the feelings, then maybe we get to a place in Capricorn where what we're living isn't actually anything that's related to us, Taurus self-relationship, but it's related to the ways we're supposed to do things. So telling that story of she did the best that she could, it's okay, that was a veneer. That's the story that made me look good, maybe, or in my mind thought maybe that would make me look good. But the real story that helped me gave me boundaries around myself, like not in an excluding way, but I'm now established in myself and I'm at peace within myself. That came from, it wasn't the best experience for me. So you can see this idea of Mercury and thoughts being in relationship with this lunar eclipse, and also this having to do with Taurus and our feelings. And also Jupiter, the stories we tell. What are the stories we tell? What are the true thoughts and words that actually not make us look good to others? South Node is in Libra in these charts. And it's an eclipse, so there's a relationship. So we have the sun and the moon in relationship to the nodes. And Jupiter, sorry, by the way, is also compensation. So we can do the compensation to align ourselves with what's expected of us and what we think will be pleasing to others, Libra, pleasing to others, or we can find the thoughts and the feelings that actually allow us to be peaceful within ourselves, and at the same time are not warring with another. Mars warring with another. What is that thing? And what is the thing? That thought, it seems to me, so it wasn't the best experience for me. I'm not blaming, I'm not judging, I'm not criticizing, I'm not anything. I'm saying this was my experience with that. It wasn't the best experience for me. And this happened many years ago, so this has taken me a long time to figure this out. So it just wasn't the best experience for me, and that's my boundary. I can't remember where I was going with that, but when we can find that place, I think that's when we can start to really enter into the world and into relationships that are truly peaceful and help to foster peace, and that also allow us to be fully kind of individualized human beings in equal relationship with other fully individualized human beings. I feel like I didn't say that last part very well. And then the final piece that I want to bring in, which I talked about before, I think in the last eclipse chart, Venus in Virgo. Venus rules Taurus. It also rules Libra, again, where the South Node is. And the North Node, by the way, is in Aries, which is ruled by Mars. So and Chiron is there with it. And so this idea of this wound. And so in a certain sense, when we're constantly running anger thoughts, we're continually self-wounding ourselves. And so there's help in the chart, I feel, to help us shift that, to help us get to another place. I wasn't actively working on this. This is just something that came up this morning. I was on a certain level, I was working on it because I knew I didn't like that grudge kind of energy that I was running, but I wasn't actively working on it. It just sort of shifted this morning, and I was able to catch it because I, had that experience and I was aware of it. So again, awakening awareness. Oh, and I forgot to say, so the quintile relationship, that's about talent and gifts. And so this idea of boundaries, we usually think of boundaries and limitations, which is Saturn as a bad thing, but we have to have those to be an integral person, an integral being. To have form, we need boundaries, we need limitations. And then I can't remember what I was going to say about Jupiter, Saturn and Jupiter. Oh, and then Jupiter and Taurus, the feeling sense. We need to in order to be able to, so the gift and the talent here is when we are in touch with our feelings, we can better discern what's a good thought for us and what's not a good thought for us. What's our actual truth versus what's the truth we're supposed to be telling. And so, yeah, I think that's it. I think that's everything I had to say about this. There's probably more, as there always is. Maybe I'll tag on one final thing, although I don't know that this exactly fits. But it's something I've been thinking about, and so I'm just going to tag it on here at the end. So I was wondering about the lunar nodes a while back, and usually they go backwards through the chart. So in other words, clockwise through the chart. The planets generally go counter clockwise through the chart. So in the yearly journey of the planets, they go counterclockwise through the charts, and then the nodes go clockwise through the chart. The clockwise direction of the chart is about the sun's daily journey. And so the idea I was thinking about was just that the we can think of the clockwise direction of the chart as the daily practices that we do day after day after day. And then we can think of the yearly movement of the planets, and also when the nodes go direct, as sort of like the habits and the patterns that we form, that we rely on, and that carry us through the year. And so when we come across something that's difficult or whatever, maybe that's that's showing us what our habits and patterns are. And then when the planets go retrograde, maybe that's an opportunity for us to look and see what are our habits and patterns. What are the habits and patterns we've been fostering, that are creating the reality that we live, that are creating, the general theme of what we're living. So Jupiter and Uranus retrograde in this chart. So we're getting to maybe revisit our practices around our stories, our truth and lies, and also in Taurus, our feeling. Are we awake? Are we awake and aware of our feelings? All that kind of stuff. So just something extra. It's something I'm playing with. It's not meant to be anything set in stone. I just think it's an interesting idea. So I'm going to leave it there. I hope this was useful, helpful in some way, as always, and I will be back some other time. Okay, take care. Bye.